And again, in T1, they still have a lot of aggressive power when it comes towards this front to back, right? There is the Ornn, there is the Jarvan as well, and there is a lot of CC that can kind of play the way that Gen.G did in the previous game.
They can, but we'll see how Gen.G kind of want to set up potentially around this Drake. Because I am not sure if T1 are going to want to fight them. But T1's going to start it out.
T1 kicking things off. Gen.G not in a great spot. Do have the necessary vision to try and contest. Ruler off on the side seems to be the target. Duro locked up, flicked back, doesn't have the chance to do anything. Excellent block on the ulti coming in from Ruler. Solid pick to start the fight for T1. And now Gen.G, they're starting to reconsider.
You kind of set that up, Dracos, with the pick potential, right? The Braum to Leah combo coming in clutch for T1.
Look at that TP.
Canyon.
Doran's on his way.
Ruler still standing. 1500, it's going to be the flip. Chovy potentially locked up by the ramp. Locked down in the pit. T1 already found one. They're looking for another. Chovy off on the side. As T1 descend, and Keen trying to make the difference. The Romorph not coming out in time, and Keen cut down!
And Gen.G, they knew that was happening. They knew they were a member down. They knew that Keen's still at the base before he could TP because he was sitting on a monstrous amount of gold. He only had a Haunting, guys. Instead, they overcommit like they did in the first Drake fight. T1 take the gold lead back and 2 Drakes to 0.
And it started with getting that pick, right, in the mid lane. T1 able to then make it at a numbers disadvantage. And here we go with the Keria ult combo on top of the Faker flick. Duro is dead for this, and that is the go button for T1, right? And I was kind of surprised that Gen.G continued to try to contest this instead of just soft contesting.
Especially with Chovy being Rise, right? Unless you flash, once they get on top of you, you're not going to be able to get an easy way out. There's way too much CC. Maybe looking for a quick exit, but if everyone on Gen.G is there, you're just going to get burned down. In the early game, a back and forth here as T1. Those 2 Drakes are going to be a big deal as we get towards the mid-game.
They certainly are, and you have to be so confident when you go for these fights against the Braum. Keria has been getting such insane passive value in every single fight because they've just been messy, they've been scrappy, and it's been a super back-and-forth game. The initial camp steals into the first gank from Canyon, the fight where Gen.G fumble a bit despite finding that kill. And then they immediately get a fight back, and here we have this just continuing this trend of trading fights, and at this point, neither side with a massive advantage. It is, to your point earlier, just those Drakes, the convenience of being able to set up around the threat of Soul Point as we see the red buff hotly contested.
And this is pick T1. The moment they get a slight lead, they feel like they're ahead, they're going to be pushing into your jungle. They're going to be taking your camps, and they're going to be looking for chip damage on anyone they can find.
Yeah, that's what makes this T1 team so deadly, right? Is again, like either punishing mistakes or trying to find windows. As Owner is there to absolutely stuff this attempt from Canyon.
Ready to body block. Whatever that Scorpion's going to do, I will eat that damage so Guma can free fire. And again, this mid lane matchup is tough because neither side really has too much lifesteal yet. So whoever gets the poke, whether it's the culling or the mystic shots, that damage is going to stick before an objective.
And in the side lane, Chovy is laning as just Roa with a couple of stacks Rise into a Kanik Rooker and Ornn. Doran is completely unfazed, and for Doran, all he really cares about, the fact that he's behind Keen, it doesn't really matter. He wants to hit his levels, and in experience, isn't even behind, actually slightly ahead. Want to get to the level 13, 14 breakpoint where you can start giving out the items to the rest of your team.
And you can already see T1 rotating up, Faker using the TP on this top side, and Keria coming over to maybe look for something onto that Rumble as Guma chases out Duro, and this should be a nice setup directly before Herald.
Control over the top side going to T1 is big. Keen, no TP of his own. Chovy does have TP, hence being forced to lane in that bot side matchup where maybe he's not going to do too much damage, and T1 choking the vision out. They don't want to give Gen.G that easy access into the pit.
Yeah, they'll be backing, and reset should be in time just after this Herald spawns. They should be able to get into position, but again, they have to force Gen.G to respond to the push in mid, respond to the push in bot, right? This is such good setup from T1, and yeah, they're already on it pretty much at spawn.
Gen.G, though, still have the power of a very fed Rumble with the first strike and the Canyon on the Skarner, right? So the only thing I think T1 need to avoid at all costs is just walking into a big multi-man engage from Duro and from Canyon. That could be enough to turn the fight as the TP comes in.
TP from Gen.G, immediate response coming in from Doran. Chovy now trying to run more out. He wants nothing to do with that fight. Lockup goes there onto Duro. Faker looking to follow. Goes over the wall, but he's all on his lonesome on this side. Doran quick to follow up as well. Colin coming out. Guma knocking him down. Canyon needs to get out.
The
find the retreat, but it's T1 who are first on pulling the trigger. T1 finding the angle of attack. Chovy, Ruler still standing. Double threats. Canyon there to potentially steal, but it looks like the objective is already gone. Down goes the Herald. Retreat out from Duro. 4 members standing on the side of Gen.G, but T1 looking to run him down. Ruler caught. Knock up now connecting. Doran running out of health. The turn back coming in. Canyon, damn clutch. Chovy needs the damage to finish the job, though, and he doesn't have it. Charging through is the Herald into the mid lane, and T1 get the fight.
And Gen.G didn't have the damage there, even though they were able to get off a beautiful CC combination from Duro and Canyon. T1 clean up the fight, they get the Herald, and they get mid-tier 1.
It's a target selection here. Coming into the fight, we talked about what can Keen do, and guess what? In this fight, basically nothing. Thanks to the engage from Doran with the flash ult into knock-up, saves that fight. If Keen gets even a little bit of damage from the equalizer, if you look at how close that fight ended up being, could have been the turning point. He is so insanely strong, but instead, what happens is he gets blown up, and then even though the Gen.G frontline does a good job of layering the CC, softening up the targets, softening up for who? And for what? Because they don't have the damage to cut through these health bars.
And we talked about heroic ultis from Canyon, and this was one of them, but they're not at the point in the game where Chovy can bear that damage burden alone. Ruler can't hit the right targets, right? The Braum, the front line, so difficult to get through. And Gen.G biting off more than they can chew. We'll see if they make the same mistake twice. Again, Keen, the player you need to keep your eyes on. He was the one who was picked off. He's the one with the gold advantage and the power to change the fight. T1 know it as well. No reason to risk, but it is Soul Point. Faker poking, prodding on the side, contesting a bit of vision, making sure Gen.G feel threatened. But T1 not hesitating to risk the flip.
Faker wall.
Canyon, they don't see him. Faker wall the zone off. Equalizer to start things off, keeping them in the fight. Canyon going over, but who's going to get it in the end? Eyes on the Drake, but Faker laying down so much damage to the Drake might not even matter. Kuma continuing to free fire. Uncontested his door, just barely makes it out. No, he will get cut down. Canyon finds a good ulti, but Chovy zoned from the fight. The Rise doesn't have the range, but T1 sure as hell have the damage. Another fight in their favor.
Canyon still in the area. Might look for a possible steal. Desperation play from the Skarner. He's not seen.
2.5K. Getting lower. Not spotted.
Doesn't know.
Doesn't know. Goes in, goes right back out. But now the chase. Hex gate. T1 want a little bit more. Canyon running. Flick back, flashed away. Oh, they get the flash as well, and that makes it that much more devastating.
And T1 are finding these fights that CC isn't layered with the equalizer, so it just doesn't do enough damage. And again, a crucial member of Gen.G gets blown up in the fight as Doran again hits the mark.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Doran and Faker combo coming out from this fight to immediately get onto Ruler, kind of take him out. And even though Keen is still doing a really solid amount of damage, there's still just not enough damage coming out of this team to clean up T1.
And that's Soul Point. That is 26 kill in 18 minutes. I was really excited to just have a nice chat with you guys. You know, our LCK games, sometimes we have the opportunity for that.
Not today, not today.
Not today, not in this game.
Not with T1 in control of the tempo.
Definitely not. And one thing that I will say, Guma looking powerful, but may have been picked off. Carrier here to body block and try to cover. Guma sidestepping as best he can, but they're moving their way around the Unbreakable. Down goes the Equalizer, and Guma cut out of the fight. Ezreal ulti from Ruler is good. The fight's still coming through for Gen.G. They found the angle, and they're taking it. Quick double for Ruler.
We talked about Ruler being taken out of the last fight. Guess what? He just is now back in the game off of a really crucial pick from Gen.G.
Closer to the 2-item spike. Both Chovy and Ruler, tiers fully stacked. Once they get that, it's going to be a nice influx of power for the coming fight. We're still far away from Baron. It's a breakneck speed. You highlighted it beautifully, Mao, but Baron not on the table. Otacon 20 seconds away, though. Maybe the angle of attack for Gen.G.
Yeah, the big two things we have to watch out for are that Otacon and the fact that they need to contest T1 on this Hex Tech Soul. You do not want to give this team composition, especially Gumayushi Lucian, a Hex Tech Soul.
As stroke of irony, as it's Guma that kind of gets caught in a spot where Ruler often has been found. Really good immediate collapse, and you see T1 try and maybe salvage the fight, but the moment that Doran also gets slammed into the wall, decide the better of it is Ruler knows that they are not out of this game yet as Otacon has been started up.
Doran trying to get in, ready to blow the horn if he has to. Owner, it's so hard to deny him access to the pit. Doran getting chunked out, still 5K, they can't really afford. Instead, the turning. Gen.G collapsing on the flanker of Dorn, but here comes Faker laying down the wall. All D leverage. Only one member gonna get knocked out. They want to burn through Chovy. 4K on the objective. They're not gonna be able to finish it, but now the fight breaking out. Keria trying to find the angle. Gumayushi throwing down the calling, and all of Gen.G is starting to fall. Chovy and Keen on the run. They can burn whoever they want, but it's not enough to take the fight. Doran unfazed. Keria stepping up. Faker to follow through and bring it home. 7K on the Otacon, but it belongs to T1.
The T1 not going to let a single pick stop them from doing what they love, which is fist fighting to the death. As the crowd goes crazy, Otacon goes the way of T1, and the odds of this series going to 1-1 are looking good right now.
And the crowd deafening, there's no way, there's no amount of white noise in the world that can stop Gen.G from hearing it. The 6th man for this T1 lineup. And again, the perfect world for Keen. You can see it. The 2K individual gold lead, but without him in a fight, it is a 6K relative deficit for Gen.G, and that's devastating.
It's devastating, and I actually thought Faker, being able to separate with the wall was kind of the setup for that fight, right? Because Gen.G were kind of stymied and kind of caught with like, okay, where do we go? Who do we want to jump onto? And now T1 in very solid control of this game.
And what happened there as well is that they tried to look for Doran, but I think he took a path, and you could see Canyon going towards upper part of the brush, expecting Doran to walk back to his team, but he just walked down instead, and that means they couldn't get the pick onto Doran, which means that Canyon was overextended. And I think Gen.G with a desperation play there, and now again the gold lead already rough, but T1 have 3 Drakes, and you cannot again. Of all Drakes, I think Hextech Soul is the most unplayable. There's just no way you get to play the game from any point onwards because the slow is so debilitating. They also have the ornaments, and the one lead that Gen.G had, the flowers, now mitigated as well.
Definitely are. The big thing, not a 3rd completed item here for Guma or Faker yet, but they're on the way. So a brief window, or at least in terms of completed items, Gen.G are close. But this fight is going to be incredibly difficult. You can see they don't have control over mid. The range of the Ezreal, the ulti, not enough to give them that mid lane push in the face of Guma, who has that extra PF sword, that extra pickaxe.
And you see how T1 have done such a good job, right? We have this, we have the Ornn already TPing bot, and they've already pushed into this bot side jungle. It's a perfect setup to really put Gen.G in an advantageous position where they have to check into Fog.
Again, it has to be a wombo combo. It has to be a combination of Canyon and Keen, maybe Duro, finding multi-man ultimates if Gen.G want to salvage this fight.
Ulti from Ruler only connecting onto Carry. Off on the side, it's Keen! Caught off once again! He buys an extra second, but it just does not matter. Down goes the Rumble, the equalizer decent, but the follow-up is just not there. Carry a body blocking, keeping Chovy out of the fight single-handedly. He's going to be able to realm warp to safety, but Canyon with the pullback. Can it be the face that turns? Faker stunned, not able to find the follow-up, but the flick back into Chovy is good! T1! Find the angles, find the fight, find the pick, and just keep the ball rolling. Gen.G shell-shocked as T1 break into the mid lane.
It's a layered engage from T1. 1 into 2 into 3. Doran followed up by Faker, followed up by Owner, followed up by Keria. And T1 gonna get Hextech Soul and stamp out the remaining hopes, I think, of Gen.G in this game too.
Yeah, they're in such a good position. And that was such a beautiful Drake setup. Gen.G had no choice but to contest, especially after what I thought could have been a very early wall from Faker, and a bit costly, ended up corralling Gen.G into a point where immediately T1 is going to jump onto Keen as he comes around here. He is taken out of the fight so early, and that's crucial because he's still so much of Gen.G's damage.
And while this is the priceless moment of the game, the cost for Gen.G making that misstep, for Keen again getting caught out, is Hextech. The soul you never want to see on the opposing side, and we know what happens when you fall behind this Braum composition. It's so easy for them to clean up these kills. There's nowhere for Gen.G to go once they start to lose a fight.
And we often talk about the lane when it comes to the Ornn into the Rumble, right? Because you're able, as Doran with a smile on his face, I love to see it, as a double kill is happening. Guys, the Hextech Soul's gone. I don't think that Gen.G really gets to do a whole lot, but what I want to highlight, it's also, in these fights, Keen needs to be on top of people. He doesn't really have a choice, right? He needs to do damage, he needs to actually get value from his kid. But the moment you get even remotely close, you are an immobile carry. Ornn can just, with any of his CC, any of his knockup, especially with the follow-up that's there, between Braum passive, between Talia flick, between Owner following up, it's so easy to just find a target, an immobile carry on Gen.G, and blow them up.
Definitely is. And the range advantage right now for T1 just makes it so difficult for them to play out. You can see a world where Chovy's a little bit further ahead and you can just walk through that front line, obliterate those tanky members. But just now, getting that bit of magic penetration. Only level 14 to the 15 of Faker, despite having the Roa, a difficult position to find themselves in. Faker, again, the member that we looked at in terms of individual performance, who had a lackluster playoffs, a lot of deficits, even if he still had some clutch moments. But in this game, he has been a monster. 5, 2, and 18. 23 out of 24 kills for this Taliyah mid lane.
Yeah, and this is the exact pick I love to see him on, right? Like, he has such an incredible mind for the game. I love seeing him on things like the Taliyah, where he's able to get into fights very easily, where you can see his control. And now you can see T1 kind of doing a very similar thing to their Drake setup, right? Like, they pushed out this bot wave with the Ornn. They're now immediately on to the Baron. They have great vision setup.
TP from Doran is coming in, but the Baron is going down.
Meantime, Doran buying a bit more space. They're not in a position to contest. They can't even get Doran as well. Now the horn has been blown, and it might be Keen who's been caught out. Doran trying to find the disengagement. In the meantime, it's Keen getting cut down where he stands. Does not have time to go golden. It does not matter as Faker's on a rampage. And T1 are out for blood.
Doran is but the jester. He's distracting them, TPing in their midst as Gen.G see the objective taken by T1. And now what surely will be the final push of this game too.
T1 pushing through, tearing Gen.G apart in these fights. Gen.G had that first kill, but kept giving these angles back to T1. Owner getting aggressive onto Chovy. Chovy no way out. Carrier ready to follow up. He has to go back under the tier 3 tower. Good sidestep keeps him standing. T1 maybe
Faker's
forced
here.
back for a moment, but as you highlight, Emily, Faker is here. And the Hextech Soul, that poke only continuing to add up. Ruler trying to get some push, but Carrier ready. Uses the Unbreakable. Gen.G.
Oh. The damage. It's T1.
Lock up there, flick back onto Canyon, manages to find a few members, but again, Gen.G running, sent packing. Gen.G, when they had the lead, they choked T1 out, but T1 backbreakers in this game as Guma finds the double, looking for a few more kills, looking to tie up the series. Gen.G, whatever dominance they had domestically, it's a different story on the international stage. T1 won't go quietly, and Gen.G sent packing here in game 2.
I love the way we saw how both of these teams choke out their opponents as we see T1 cleaning up the Nexus. Unlike Gen.G, who kind of slow things down, they're like, we're going to force you to come to us. You're going to have to make terrible decisions. T1 are like, you have to make terrible decisions, and we are going to punch you in the face.
Vancouver ready for game 3, 1-1 so far. Winner here moving on to
Ornn and Jarvan in particular. It's just so hard to actually ever step up as, oh my god, Pantheon's open.
Yeah, as we enter Pix Advance powered by Omen and HyperX. I don't know how Pantheon got through, but it is no surprise to see it immediately locked in. We have to assume T1 wanted to trade it for something, and the answer is the Scion and some Gen.G signs, as we'll keep you updated on what happened there.
I'm thinking it could be one of the champions that was hovered. Yes,
it's
it
Victor.
is the Victor for Faker, which actually, we think of Faker, we think of, you know, the Azir, we think of the Orianna, we think of the Taliyah, we even think of like Akali, right, and some pop-off performances. Victor is actually his most played champion this year.
Ironic that Chovy has the highest profile clip of him at the end of the base in T1.
Yep.
But I think that this, again, we said it at the start of the series, and it will continue to be a theme. T1 is going to just blind comfort picks for Faker. They do it here with the Victor, and we do see Chovy going towards the Galio here. The Galio Pantheon combination in side lanes. Whew.
I was gonna say, this is already looking pretty scary coming out of Gen.G. The Keen Sante. Are we gonna see it?
Gen.G. This will be some pretty big guns coming out in game 3. Oh my gosh, Keen Sante, Pantheon, and the Galio.
I was kind of hoping for the Keen Camille Galio, you know, that's a classic for a reason.
True.
But the Keen Sante, also an incredible pick, and it is looking like Ruler might be going towards something that can at least deal with these front lines, right? Maybe a bit more on towards the hyper carry end of the spectrum. We do still have the Varus, the Caitlyn Vandeweghe, which I think should come as no surprise.
It's tricky though, right? Because when you already have a Victor and a Scion, you're kind of set up for that front to back. Zin comes in though, and actually surprised to see it make it this far in the series. Was of course on the table in the previous match before second ban phase, but now Zin versus Panth, a matchup we've seen I feel like hundreds of times worldwide.
And again, mentioning it, it's worth mentioning again, Owner, I do think is the best Xin Zhao in the world. But I am looking at what Gen.G have, and I'm like, this is very scary. There's so many tools for them to be able to create side lane pressure and also just be able to join up for fights.
Thus far, it's both teams with draft that will make you go, oh my god, they got everything they wanted, which I hope that as we get to the rounding out, that's going to remain the case. I think that's where we have seen a lot of teams struggle. T1 being on the red side could be looking towards a carrier counter pick. One of the big values, obviously, this player has is how crazy eclectic his champion pool is. As the looking at what will be banned, we do see the Kalista, or the Renata, which hopefully means that the Kalista won't be picked. I know that was a big topic going in. Is one of these teams going to blatantly disregard the stats? Thus far, there haven't been TF bans, so I'm not feeling too bad about them ignoring it.
No TF bans, although both these mid laners have played TF. Somewhat recently.
Don't wish that upon us.
They looked good.
And they did, though. No, that's the important part, right? Like, they did look good.
No, it's fine.
No,
just
it's
one
true.
Just one more TF game.
Just one more TF game. Just one more. Yeah.
Oh
you know what that sounds like?
This is sounding very dangerous, guys.
I think it certainly is. So Zig's banned away. Don't want to give them easy access to knocking down some of these towers or maybe neutralizing a potential bot lane matchup. And now the final ban. Got to limit Carrier's pool. Wondering if Bard shows his face in this pick ban. Very good against T1. Doro, a guy who modeled a lot of his play after Carrier, maybe looking to bring out that pick as well.
And after we see that going through, I fully expect them to pick Guma's champion here as we see the Corki ban coming out and then really save that R5 for Carrier because of a lot of what we've talked about, right? Like a counter pick in Carrier's hands can be so powerful. He has such a deep champ pool and it could be just something that he wants to wait to see what the rest of Gen.G are going to lock in before picking it. No hovers yet for Guma.
Really big debate because it's going to shape this composition. MF showing us more about the team fight combo, not necessarily always about the front to back, but definitely wants to leverage the CC that the Xin, the Scion, the Victor can bring to bear.
And MF has been fine, but pick hasn't really felt that crazy. You really are, I think, someone reliant on your opponent, kind of overextend. This should be a no-brainer. Senna and Ali to come through here. The amount of CC that Gen.G have available is insane. The one thing they do need to be careful of, unless Chovy goes for the build, I'm pretty sure we saw Shanks go into him, the full AP Galio build. Yeah. If they fall behind in mid-game, this comp lacks damage. Late game, you're obviously fine with the Senna, with the Pantheon. Even the Cassandra at that point does serious damage. As no, it's fine. It's Carrier's baiting.
Yeah.
Guys, is he baiting? Mao?
He wouldn't. There we go.
The timer's up. Is it actually up? It's Bard. Okay.
Bard.
That's still hype.
Bard
Everything is hype.
Hype.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
what a roller coaster.
I know.
Every hover was good.
The Pike would have been kind of insane just because that was his pick, right?
Yeah.
On which he eliminated Gen.G from last year's Worlds. But it is the Bard coming through. This should be great. Once Carrier gets on the map with this Bard, he is phenomenal on it.
And we need to see Canyon run the early game. The side lane pressure from Gen.G needs to be great, because I think that when it comes to actual even number fights, I don't think they're going to have the best of time. I think there's a lot more power for T1. There is also the fact that both Senna and the Pantheon can really struggle into the Bard because they don't have an easy way of getting out of that ultimate. And for T1, when it comes to particularly that Xin Zhao MF combo, your early skirmishes are so dangerous.
Early skirmishes, and again, one thing I really loved from T1's composition last time was that they did have that pushing bot lane, right? Bot lane being a source of power for Gumayushi and Carrier is a hallmark and a staple of this T1 team's success. We see it here again, where they should have complete control over this bot side wave with the MF and the Bard into... Senna just feels pretty bad. Alistar, not the best. I'm really underselling it. Not the best pushing lane. It's not going to be fun.
Yeah, and I think the thing we have to track for Ruler now specifically is where does he get stacks? Because normally you really want to see a matchup where you can kind of free fire, you get those autos down. We've seen a lot of teams at this tournament struggle to find the right lane assignments to ensure that the Senna can stack up, scale up, because that range advantage as you go later in the game has the potential to be big, and you don't want to be approaching a late game situation where Faker on this Victor gets to play against so many short range champions.
that is where the Cassante can come in super handy, right? When we had proper lane swaps at level 1, Cassante actually deals with lane swaps super, super well. So obviously, Keen, phenomenal on this pick. We call it Keen Sante for a reason. He's 47 and 17 on it going into this game. But that is, I'm also super curious to see the lane assignments if the Senna ends up really falling behind, if Gen.G try to swap out of it.
The other big thing is punishing the Sion blind, right? You really want to be able to shut that pick down, because so often we've seen aggressive top laning option, Sion comes out, and even though you get that early gold lead, it doesn't matter. And it was a similar story for last game, right? It was the Rumble, absorbed the pressure on the Ornn for the side of Doran, and is set up to kind of do the same thing here and just try to outvalue in team fights. As we do have a bit of a pause for a peripheral issue, and we'll keep you updated if there's any more news. Now been resolved. Vancouver ready for game 3, 1-1. So far, winner here moving on to match point advantage in the series. Gen.G with a lot of tools. Fan chance a moment.
No?
No.
30 seconds.
This is a very heavily T1
Yeah, I think
crowd, I think. But we did hear the
Really? That
T1
never
fighting.
happens.
That's never happened.
Nah.
Underdogs, I think it's safe to say.
When it comes to the crowd, every time.
He is aura farming. He dodged a Q. The crowd went wild. Of course, Keria. It's just a constant barrage of stats and record breaking when either of these teams play on stage.
Faker passing 1,000 kills at international events, though, that's just, like, no one's ever gonna...
Against Chovy. Yeah, that's
You know how when you see like a natural phenomenon, it's too big to really comprehend what you're witnessing?
Yeah.
Like that's too big a number.
It's insane.
My man's got the spreadsheet out, farming up. You know, he's done all the math.
He made sure he hit it in
Stardew
that
Valley
game.
levels of aura farming right here.
Owner has, yep, I'm
Owner
with you.
does have aura.
And this is, as we expect, the early pressure here towards his bot lane. Guma and Keria are going to be fighting as much as they can. The only other thing I want to note is that Faker did go for Grasp, which we see a lot on Victor into melee matchups, ensuring that he will be able to farm up as much as possible, and basically for free, of the Galio, who, without having help in the lane, shouldn't really be able to do too much against him.
At this point, Bard level 1, obviously notoriously oppressive, has access to the Cosmic Binding and the passive. Feels effectively like 2 skills early on. Doro, headbutt very common, right? There's not a lot you can do. You punt him away. You try to make the trades as favorable as possible. Ruler does have a bit of sustain, as does Doro, so can maybe weather the storm here. Keria packing heal as the initial spell on that Summoner spellbook.
And yeah, they should be able to easily take control over the lane. Basically, for Ruler, he is going to be at least trying to get XP, trying to get soul farming started as quickly as possible, but this lane is a very, very rough time for the Senna Alistar.
Yeah, he's sitting at 3 minions. And the stacks obviously not going well. Should be able to pick up at least a little, but also did feel like he just missed a lot. Not necessarily because of them crashing into the turret, but just early on. So not the best start there for the Senna. As we also, both junglers were spotted on their Raptors. So Gen.G bot lane, or the Gen.G bot lane knows that Owner is on their way and they won't have help. And T1 also knows that. I don't know if they spotted each other's wards. I think that at least the Gen.G one, or the one on Gen.G's Raptors was spotted. And Keen, getting Sion low is nice, but let's be real, you're not going to be able to actually threaten him unless Kenyon makes his way over. But even then, Sion notoriously hard to dive early.
Definitely can be. Chovy, the losing end of the early trades here. Victor, really solid against these melee options. Galio brings a lot to the team composition, but the early lane can be really tricky. Just the Q trading on the Siphon power, giving you that additional shielding, that additional movement speed steroid as you get the upgrade. I mean, it's just miserable to play against.
And this is, again, everything a T1 composition wants, right? As we see this bot lane not letting up on their pressure onto Ruler and Duro, but this should give them the easiest first Drake access of any game they've played thus far in the series. And they've already done a great job of locking in that first Drake and making Drakes a huge contest point that Gen.G has to fight them on.
And I think this is tough now for Canyon. Spotted as well, right? We want to see a lot of impact from the Pantheon. The ganks don't have to come pre-6, but it's nice if they do. However, with full pressure mid lane, full pressure bot lane as well, he's losing chunks of his jungle. He's going to be at risk if he moves into bot lane or bot side of the river blind without knowing where Owner is.
Laning phases outside of Keen. Not looking too hot for now is Guma.
Good. Guma locked up, forced to cleanse. Nice little trade there coming in from Gen.G. But Keria, level 4, getting that extra Chime XP and really making the difference.
Big combo found there by Duro. able to get the cleanse out. That's a big summoner, both with the Galio and with the Pantheon available. Makes it a lot easier later on to get a possible play onto Guma, as I think we do see the pings going down right now onto Krugs. So they do know that Xin Zhao is in that area, and Keen should be fine here, but still, Doran finding the counter pressure. Kind of both lanes going one way early, and then in the extended play, going the other. Never take that, but it's carry out a reroll.
It's far enough away.
It's
okay.
just supportable
okay.
combat. Ooh, Faker with a nice wave position here. Chovy trying to get this one in. Might need a bit of support to come over from Canyon. The one thing that I will say is bot lane, yes, Ruler and Duro are weaker early, but they have a really good setup if Canyon can pay attention to the bottom side of the map.
And you already see they have set up to at least track, right? They do have wards in addition to the T1 wards that were already placed to try to track to see if owner does decide to go for this early Drake now that it has spawned. I think you're just going to shove that wave all the way in and back.
Not something we talk about often, but Faker, obviously, I think this early matchup, pre-6, is always going to feel rough unless the jungler shows up in your lane. But Faker really having an extremely dominant laning phase. Chovy having to base twice throughout that, one time without the teleport, leading to a pretty big disadvantage as Guma is sitting on the Vamp Scepter right now, so I think feeling a little bit better. Also has to sustain from the Bard to ensure that these trades, as long as they don't get all in, shouldn't be too bad.
And you can see Ruler very ready to posture forward here, recognize that owner has started the Drake, knows that he has a few extra seconds, and wants to maximize, wants to get every soul he possibly can. It's T1 right on cue.
Contest. But look at Doran. He is level 6. He's already on his way.
Chovy, Justice Punch. Taunt now bringing him out. He's trying to zoom out to safety. Has access to the phase rush, and Canyon
Vision.
ready to try and flip it. Faker looking to zone him away. Canyon would have to commit the flash.
Yeah, no. They can, and in fairness, yes, T1 get the first Drake. Yes, they once again start this early Drake stacking. I do like that Gen.G decided not to contest that.
Yeah, I don't think that was looking good. By any means, Keen wouldn't have been able to join that fight. Obviously, Doran was already there. Keen got a little bit out of it. I think was able to push in a wave towards top. And it really is more when you're actually set up at an objective or finding out key targets. So they need to get some vision as Canyon gonna get spotted.
Spotted, immediate pop. Carrier brings the entire team through that seeks off, but now Chovy's on the way, looking to find a taunt. Aegis all blocked so much damage, and T1 are trying to back away, but owner caught in the thick of it, has to flash out. Still rooted over the wall, but they cannot finish the kill. Chovy, flash follow, Justice Punch, the taunt doesn't connect, but he gets the flash out of Guma, and Canyon, a blinking health bar, but he'll manage to stand strong. Chovy locked up for a moment. It doesn't seem like they have the damage. Messy exchange on the bottom side.
And there's Gen.G trying to make use of both the ability from Pantheon to stay in the fights and the Galio ultimate. But the first global, not working out for them.
Not working out, but it does give, in addition to the fact that T1 all had to rotate up for this Drake take, right? A tiny bit of reprieve in this bot side where Ruler will be able to go back.
There's also the owner, Guma, and Carrier Flash being invested. That's a lot of really big summoners. It might end up being big in the follow-up fight, where possibly Gen.G could be looking again. The ability to find a single target or even multiple, CC them and blow them up in seconds is what I think this comp is going to rely on. They need to contest for grubs, though. I think if you're also giving up grubs with your at least 1-4 comp, where you want to try and really maintain some side lane pressure, will be quite rough. And T1 not going to give that one up for free, I'm pretty sure. But Duro has been able to get to that pit, set up some vision.
Nice little stun there from Carry. Of course, important to note that Ruler doing a relatively good job of stacking, all things considered. A bit behind as he has just now got back to lane, but 34 at 14 is kind of the average for the tournament thus far. He's on 18 now, so a little bit behind the clock at this moment, but should be able to get some back. The downside is that's kind of just the silver lining on the cloud that is T1 taking control of all of these objectives. Gen.G, they have tools to go wherever they want to punish individual members, but if T1 keep grouping, there's really no angle of attack.
There's no angle of attack, and it's just
here we
another...
go. Walk up there. Punt back into the tower. Tower turned off. Guma caught out, stunned. He'll be able to run out thanks to the Bardal. It's a little bit awkward, but Doran waiting over the wall. Now the bomb coming in for Canyon. It's just a little bit weird on the top side, wasn't it?
All right. Well, I was going to talk about how it's another really nice objective take from T1. They're playing around these pushing lanes super, super well. We see both teams kind of tried to go in there, not really willing to make the full overcommitment, which is good.
Now I'm wondering whether Gen.G will call that worth, because they lost 3 grubs. They do get, obviously, a decent amount of tempo towards the top side of the map, but all they got was Keen just hammering away at the turret for a little bit. This is a Cassante, so it's not really going to do nearly as much. He does farm up a small lead. At the same time, I'm wondering, based on the positioning of T1, if Keria hadn't had to save Guma there with that ultimate, I think they would have looked for a dive. Because they were actually posturing there with 4 people as Chovy 1v2ing.
Keria. I'm going to be honest, if he's not coming in a portal through the wall, and if Faker has full mana, like maybe you believe it, but he's just there to be annoying. Duro, on the other hand.
That was a really nice recognition of how he could punt Guma back, right? Like, and that actually changed that entire dive and stopped it from potentially being a really, really big success for T1.
Yeah, and that's the thing you have to be aware of, right? T1, we've seen in so many of the series they've played thus far, if they get a small advantage, they'll always try to reach for that little bit extra, and if you give it to them for free, you'll fall behind so damn quickly. Keen, knowing he's stronger in the 1v1, has the Sheen, ulti there, but Doran happy to just trade back and survive. However, it's going to make his reset that much more difficult. May need to use the TP to come back to lane, as we see Chovy and Faker continue to trade in the mid lane.
We saw Chovy also roaming over towards the top side, so if Doran doesn't ult there or somehow Keen gets in front of it, could have flashed but didn't choose to do so, could have been a kill angle, but with Doran also having flash, maybe not wanting to risk it, does mean that Keen maybe is an angle to try and look for some damage on the turret as well.
Root there. Duro stepping up, but again, I think content to just farm. Ruler crossing the 20 stack threshold, grabbing what he can, but it's Cole for Guma. Clearly very aware that it might just be a battle of scaling and farming up.
Want to highlight that Chovy also has equalized most of the gold, right? The lead has been mitigated. Ever since he got his Spectre's Cowl, the trades haven't been nearly as Faker favored.
TP topside, it is just Keria.
Hello. That's Bard, come on.
Is that what Bard sounds like? He doesn't have a voice.
I mean,
but
he doesn't have a voice, but if he did have a voice,
you could be the voice
tell
for Bard.
me that he wouldn't sound like that.
Yeah. It sounds like
not
a
the Bard
wise,
vibe?
it sounds
it's
like
kind
a
of the vibe.
wise old
It is the vibe.
owl.
It needs to be infuriating.
It does need
That's
to be
what it means
But
to be a
also
boss.
kind of
be good.
tilting, yeah.
Yeah. We need to hit the wholesome version of the Korean Lysandra voice, you know? Needs to be very loud, needs to be omnipresent.
Still
Keen,
is. Yeah.
hoping his jungler's omnipresent, because he's going to be in trouble now. Portal through the wall. When it becomes lightning, just barely sidestepped, and Keen forced to back away as T1 set up to grab at least one plate here. Might be able to get the TP out of Keen. Don't know if he's confident to step into this one. We'll have access to the path maker. And again, T1 quick to take that plate because of the earlier grubs, because of that early objective control.
Yeah, he's going to be able to take that. Meanwhile, Canyon is on this Drake on the bot side. Doran is going to kind of scout that out, but not really going to be able to do anything to contest. So good from Gen.G to recognize, again, this is a window to get onto that Drake, and also good use of their pressure from T1 on the top side and really using this MF. The way I separate like good MF teams from bad MF teams is you need to use her and rotate her around to do turret damage, right? And that was a perfect example of how they used her pressure well.
Yeah, that's a good point. So much flat AD, so much additional movement speed. Those are the areas where you are favored. To see if T1 also can back it up with the team fight setup is Keen. Seems pretty unconcerned here on the top side of the map. Mountain Soul would be big for either lineup as it's 1-to-1 in Drake. So many tanky members.
And even though it wasn't used, I think a large part there was Chovy actually, as Keen TP'd back, he is a Cassante, so obviously he can stall, but both Duro as well as Chovy were already rotating towards top, and obviously if you overextend into a Galio, well, you just die. But then immediately, as soon as it was clear that Keen wasn't at any threat, he rotated towards the bot side to ensure that Canyon could also just take that dragon, not be threatened, because let's be real, Sion, he catches everyone off guard sometimes, okay? He has a Sunfire, that's a damage item. It's scary, you need to respect him.
Definitely do. Canyon luckily had completed the Sundered Sky already, so was relatively unperturbed, although owner has now matched him on the reset. Both very close to finishing out the jungle item. And Duro continuing to roam around looking for these picks, has opted for the Swifties. Really wants to be able to get on top of those key targets. And you can understand why. Bard very annoying, despite the very cute voice that Mao gave him earlier. Flash, Ghost. He's got Locket now as well. Gonna be a tough target to lock down as just continues to step up, and Cosmic Binding, for those of you who haven't played Bard, I think Azael described it as the dumbest hitbox in the game when I talked to him about it. This was 2 years ago, so maybe he feels differently now. But if you hit the first half, you're hitting the second half.
Also have Ruler sitting at 30 stacks. So even though he, I think, will be slightly behind the curve, right? We're always looking at around 60, around 20-minute mark. I think it will be a little bit below that. Given how rough it was, as it actually is 51.7 stacks average thus far at MSI, and I think he's on track to hit that.
It's what you want to be. It kind of feels like your insurance policy for a composition that would otherwise feel pretty mid-game focused when you have this Galio Pantheon. Of course, Cassante can scale very well into the late game, even if it is sometimes difficult if he doesn't have that flanking angle. But having Ruler as an insurance policy feels pretty good based on what we saw at Game 1 on that Jhin.
Especially since, again, T1 have like the tiniest of gold leads, but they haven't been able to have the same early impact that they did around their pressure lanes earlier in the game. We'll see if they're going to go for this Rift Herald, though, which is about to spawn in about 20 seconds.
I do want to highlight as well, T1 have been doing a really good job of ensuring that they know where the globals are, right? So both Pantheon and Galio, if they ever walk anywhere near those wards for a decent amount of time, you'll know that at least on that side of the map, you can't really make a play. The vision towards the Herald, though, not looking too hot here for T1. The carrier now does get control of the area, and Pantheon maybe looking towards a play on bot Canyon. On his way, I think there's still a ward on Krugs. Should spot him, and maybe that is what prompts T1 to go for this objective towards top.
Yep, they've already pinged him out.
Engage on the bottom side, but giving an opportunity now for Gen.G to move in and clear out some of this vision.
This is my LCK. We are 0-0, 15 minutes in.
Heck yeah, we are.
So how you guys been doing? How's life?
Good.
I'm doing all right.
I mean,
We have a fun series going on, you know?
No, it's good.
I'm having a good time.
We have the time, so we should check in.
Yeah.
Crowd doing well? Okay.
Oh, nice.
Maybe
Crowd
it wants some
doing
action,
very good.
which I do respect.
We might get some
no,
here
no,
at
no,
this
no.
Herald.
We're all sitting here. You might as well put monocles on us. We're all thinking, we're all enjoying. It's like a beautiful game of chess. You know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you two would both look great with monocles.
Well, thank
just
you,
for
thank
the
you.
record.
Okay.
I don't know about
No?
that.
We're gonna need a monocle.
You did
for
the
our games.
mustache last year, but you're
Yeah, that was
unwilling to
Duro.
wear a
Done.
monocle?
Duro wants blood. Never mind. No blood for Duro. Duro will back away. Okay, I might be a little bit eager for action. That was maybe a bit premature.
I don't think that
Emily,
was
get
going
out
to
of
go
the way, he's going in!
anywhere.
Okay, yeah, all right. It's going to be slower. It's a bit more calm, a bit more reserved. And again, I think if you're looking at the Pantheon Galio, you would kind of want more, but at the same time, because you have Ruler sitting there, very comfortably farming.
So, T1 definitely isn't going to be sad about it either, though. Owner in team fights, I think, has been the standout. Both his ability to split up fights and create space for his carries, while simultaneously being a very big backline threat, something that T1 have relied on for a very long time, to the point where we saw specific counter picks come out just to try and mitigate the impact that this man had. Canyon pulling out things like from real league deep cuts. I think it was Kha'Zix last year in spring, just to try and have something going. As still, no action.
No action, and it looks like T1 have agreed for a trade deal. They said, you can have one thing, we'll take the other, as Dragon has now spawned, and T1 will be first on that objective. But Gen.G may have something to say about it.
Yeah, they have tools to get on this Drake if they want to.
Also, Keria, despite the capacity to take Smite, is still very bad at finishing objectives from...
That bar damage.
Guma really, I think, hasn't beat there. And he doesn't even need Smite.
It's true. So, we take a look at the total damage dealt to champions this game. You can see that it has been a thrilling 1v1 in the jungle. The strongest jungler on the patch, Pantheon, versus the best Xin in the world, as you said earlier, Emily. And what we've learned is that you don't always need to go fast with these picks.
Okay, surely now we'll have action.
No.
No, we're getting it. They're contesting.
They're fighting.
All sums up.
Ready to go. Eyes on Gumayusi on the side. Ulti from Keria also has the potential to be big. No cleanse, but there's a barrier for Ruler. T1 have opted out. They are not interested. There will be no blood today.
I take back my earlier statement.
That's take a breath, Vancouver.
That's my
Calm
bad.
down.
There will be blood against the Drake, and I don't know, turrets can't really bleed. But Doran's going to get some nice damage on this top tier one, right?
They can crumble.
Yeah, exactly.
I think top lane's going to
He's going to get first turn for T1. Let's go!
It's the little things.
Crowd not impressed by the turret.
Yeah, come on. That side just took down that turret. He's doing great. He's pushing out this wave. I love minions and side waves. Come on, guys.
I think that this is one of those games where you can understand both teams in comms are like, we skill. We don't have to actually do anything. Gen.G, just because of who they are as a team, I think their team fighting has been something that they've relied on to always get them out of rough situations in late games. They have one of the best scaling hyper carries in the game. Obviously, at some point, Ruder is just going to be able to auto everyone, standing behind his army of stalwart defenders between Keen and Canyon and Chovy. And on the flip side, we have Faker with this Victor and then also the Cyan, who obviously eventually in the late game just is a complete menace. It does mean, though, that because both teams feel like they cannot do anything, they're not doing anything.
It also means that
Which I like.
whenever First Blood does happen, it will be the latest First Blood of the tournament. We've crossed the threshold.
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
The build-up
The
after
crowd is
all
going to
this.
explode. Anticipation. This is how it works.
It's killing me.
This is great. I'm glad you guys are really getting the authentic
it.
LCK experience.
I was going to
get
say
it.
something really inappropriate.
Well-
I'm not going to. I'm just
we
going to
were
let
not-
people
okay, all right,
imagine
yeah,
what it
well,
was.
okay, all right.
If you have a good imagination, you'll be able to figure it out,
Okay,
guys.
Emily. All right, you're out of control. this is what it
In
does.
this game?
action.
This is how
We're losing our minds.
Where is?
All right, Carrier, come on. I know you have a good ult in you.
All right.
Duro, they're not going to engage,
Square
right?
up.
Because
We are
we're waiting
killing
for...
wars.
And also,
First Doran.
as I know that this is
Wet
two
noodle
tanks.
fight.
Don't be fooled by this.
The wet noodles
This
are
isn't
fighting.
real. No.
Max, I need a fix.
Dracos?
Okay, I need a little
Dracos,
fix.
it's not real.
I need a
I'm
little
telling you.
little bit of fighting.
Because of the globals, T1 also doesn't feel incentivized to go for fights unless they are actually 5v5ing.
Okay,
because,
so who is this better for?
wow, no, that depends on
Because we've
It
just
who
depends,
gets the next
it
Drake.
honestly depends
Handshaking.
on the first fight.
Okay.
And also, like, this, the Drake stacking.
Senna's still
They're
pretty
still
far
good.
off. Right, we're only at 45, which is below average.
They put up the
5.
team fight UI as a
Uma over the
optimistic.
wall.
Blue buff? No.
Blue buff there. Chovy looking for the engage. Carry ready to disrupt if he can, but they may have just been able to find the pick. That's a two-man, but the ulti's already coming over for Guma. Baker ready to get in the midst. Double flash out. They're going to find that first bubble. Who's going to get it there? Because Doran's still alive. Down he goes. Chovy gets the first blood.
Mayhem for a blue buff. Not what I saw coming. First blood found by Gen.G. Kill going over to the Galio. As Vancouver goes wild, and now maybe this is the punch that Gen.G was looking for.
Herald dropped. Surely now that there's been some blood in the water, both teams ready to fight. Surely all of those cooldowns, no, it's just one kill. All right, here we are. The tension
Got your one kill, right?
continues to grow.
We got some
Chovy-
damage on mid-tier 1.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is just Owner being on that ward and then Doran heading up. Chovy immediately recognizing that he can jump on. And then this Cassante coming through. The big thing is the MF ult doesn't actually reach to do all that much damage. And then,
And in a crazy twist of fate, not the champion, the little bit of trading on the bottom side did matter.
Actually did. Yeah, that's my bad. And I want to go back to your question, Dracos, which with this composition, it really depends when you're talking. I think if you're talking once Faker finishes like a death cap, right, once he has void stuff like the free 4 item point, I think T1 is going to be feeling great in these fights because they have a front line that's extremely hard to get through. They have really good pick potential with the Bard and also with Owner being able to get into the back line. But if Ruler reaches like 100 plus 120 stacks, I think that Senna, with the comp that Gen.G has, just doesn't die. Because I want you to, again, look at how much CC, disengage, peel, and protection there is to set up the Senna to succeed.
It's definitely a threat, a force to be reckoned with.
It's a
But,
hypothetical.
what happens? You're like third, fourth item. Now he's on 2. Emily, what are we doing until then? Is it just as simple as objective contesting? Look, Otacon is up. We're a few minutes away from Baron. 45 seconds on the Drake. It would be soul point for Gen.G. Surely we
Gen.G are
have
gonna
to
do
fist
Otacon,
fight.
and then we go 2 and 2 in Drakes.
then you just trade.
Just trade.
This stalemate can go on for a very long time.
And you know what's going to happen? We're going to get one team fight. 35 minutes, game's done. I've seen both these teams do it. I've seen T1 do it.
It's very charitable. I'll take the rest.
Multiple international games where I'm like, oh, I don't know about T1. And then they win one fight. It's a clean ace. Game's done. Gen.G have a habit of this as well as TP comes in. Drake, 10 seconds away.
The later we go, the higher the stakes gets on these fights. You can see the vision beautifully highlighted by the observers. Gen.G trying to take mid-prio first, but T1 happy to play for that little bit of chip damage. Again, these small advantages before fights really can start to add up. The good news for Gen.G, Ruler is there, has that healing. Can't stop this poke from having much of an impact.
Ruler doesn't have his flash available.
Canyon
That's actually a
looking
big
for
cooldown.
Potential flank, even though he will be spotted on vision very easily.
Furiously pinged out. T1 ready for the ulti if it does come down. Carrier has to be a bit careful here. They does have Celestial opposition. Keen just barely not going to get hit by that decimating smash. And Gen.G really unafraid.
Taking control of the river. And T1, they do actually need to fight this. If Gen.G goes for Otacon, you can trade, but you can't afford to give them soul point this early into the game. Ruler close to 60 stacks as well.
Also just baseline individual Mountain Soul or Mountain Drake value is so high for Gen.G.
It is.
And again, none of that poke sticking. You can see Ruler just keeping Chovy topped up. Nice
Elixir
back
of Iron
step.
used by Doran.
Ready for the fight. T1 know how important this is. They're willing to give 500 gold in the back pocket of Doran, just have that extra little bit of power in the fight. Trying to take control, careful about walking into the choke point. Eyes on Guma and the ulti here. Excellent interrupt from Carrier to stop Chovy from getting that taunted, and now they're stepping forward. Ulti, fantastic follow, and now there's going to be no way out for Ruler. He doesn't have anything left. There's just enough shielding to keep him standing. Ruler lives, and now the fight breaks out. Keen in the midst of the entire team. The Cassante ready to pop off. Guma can't get any damage down, and Gen.G weather the storm of T1. Ruler stays standing, and Faker and Guma are not enough to turn the fight back. They keep most of their members, but they'll lose the Drake.
And on the back half of that fight, Duro with the Alistar coming up clutch, right? Really stymies Gumayushi, and he's unable to get that like really fat MF ult across.
The bodyguards do their job, because despite a great ultimate with no flash available there, as
Hold that thought. They found another.
It's just the Canyon ult.
Yeah.
He's not ready for it. That's
the Pantheon Galio combo.
I hate that was right, but we're currently sitting at 3.4k gold lead, soul point for Gen.G. Ruler has hit his stack break point, and I'm pretty sure he's going to get the next item soon as well.
You can see Canyon could have reset. He opted not to. He walks right into that bush because he's ready for the potential 25-minute instantaneous start of the objective. Admittedly, the T1 composition not the best at burning it down quickly. They don't have that attack speed 80 carry. They don't have the Azir as Duro. Maybe forced back, but Gen.G giving that respect, and yeah, wow, I think you nailed it. That single fight feels like has put Gen.G in firm control of the game, and it's on T1 to try to outplay or find a unique angle to get out of this.
It's good. This game is kind of a microcosm for what we've seen all series, right? When one team is able to set the map in their favor, it then becomes, because they know each other so well, really difficult for the other team to be able to counter. We saw it in the last game where T1 were just attack anytime Gen.G would try to contest for anything. They really punished them hard for it. Now Gen.G have the potential to just really set up the map how they want, continue to get this Senna kind of scaling infinitely, and be able to force T1 to face check them when it comes to objectives.
Carry on the retreat. Faker getting closer to a third item, maybe where that damage starts to get a little bit stronger.
And he needs to go towards what I imagine will be a Void Staff, because he needs a form of Shred, because otherwise you're not going to get through Gen.G already, but let alone when they're able to actually get this Mountain Soul. And I'm telling you, Mountain Soul Cassante, particularly on Keen, that's not something that's going to be fun to play into. And again, to me, the fact that Gen.G have 2 semi-globals, I think, is such a big deterrent for T1 not trying to go aggro in this game the way we've seen them do in basically any other game in the series, right? Even though it didn't work in game 1, they were still really aggressively trying to set that pace. I think they have the tool with the Bard and the Xin Zhao, but if you make one misstep into this Pantheon, into this Galio, as we could see, game becomes so hard to play.
And credit to Canyon finding that mid lane pick, playing well in the previous fight, right? The game from Pantheon in general was so quiet early on because of the lane prio that T1 had put together in draft, because of Gumayushi and Carrier and Faker really all having that push out, but managed to weather that storm. Managed to find the angle. Did take a bit of time, but now that they've got that fight, very much favored in gold. You can see a little bit of vision in the Otacon pit, also making sure that they feel comfortable that T1 isn't going for some kind of crazy steal.
Yeah, and we see both teams kind of fighting around this line of vision in the river. Kian has kind of been continuously pushing on this bot side. Gen.G have slowly been chipping away at that mid tier 1. I think they definitely like to get that down potentially before contesting this Otacon, but also Drake is going to be up in 2 minutes, and that's going to be massive because that's something that T1 have to contest them for.
I want to highlight with Ruler, as long as he has his flash, I think making plays becomes so hard, unless he massively missteps. And on the Senna, obviously that's always going to be more punishing than with any other character, but now with the RFC can just hit turrets, right? You can see right there, the siege is going to be relentless. Keen looking for a possible play onto Guma, and this mid lane turret I don't think is going to be standing for much longer. Keen just showing his face is enough. Guma can't defend. That's mid lane turret, third turret of the game, by the way. Finally falling here. And Gen.G, their only job is keep Ruler safe, because I do think that if you do lose Ruler, this composition just doesn't have the damage to actually go toe-to-toe with T1. You're not going to be able to kill Ona, you're not going to be able to kill Doran. As long as Ruler lives, though, and T1's backline access isn't that great.
Yeah, it's true.
So you need a flank from what, Owner or Doran to somehow get on top of this Senna.
T1 now posturing around Otacon at the very least. They've done their diligence on clearing vision out of the pit, even if there is that stray ward over the wall. Gen.G forced to stick around. Keen in bottom lane with TP. T1 may be happy to just get that teleport out. Again, playing for those small advantages, but also it's T1, so maybe instead they're willing to bet it all on this Otacon. TP coming in from Keen. Ulti from Keria. The combo potential, what we have to keep our eye on. But Keen doesn't want to give him the space to set up. Doran trying to respond. Flash out of the gravity field. Keria going back over the wall. Canyon trying to zone away as best he can as Doran gets that health bar chunked. But not too much effective damage yet. And again, it could be Ruler just continuing to heal, continuing to top up Gen.G in the extended fight. It looks like it might be the 50-50. Guma waiting over the wall, but Chovy there, ready to deny the MF ultimate. Owner in the midst of the pit. Canyon locked up, but T1 don't have the burst damage objective. Yes, they do! It's Otacon down! A beautiful ult! Keria and Owner together securing the objective. Faker trying to make his way out. They got what they came for. He'll give his life, but will it cost them the Baron?
And it might not even be Baron. Look at the timer on Dragon. That was such a long stall. So Gen.G looks like they're going to go for the Baron instead, but maybe can turn this even into a soul as well.
Well, you see T1 are already heading over there, right? Keria is already heading over to the Drake pit. Keen is kind of following, shadowing Owner down.
It's two global ults. They can make their way over in a second.
Ready to go. Baron down for the side of Gen.G. Next fight.
There we go.
And they go.
Doro ready for the follow-up. Keria trying to go in. Ulti coming in for Guma, though! He lines him up and he tries to knock him down, but in goes Canyon right in the nick of time! Descending from the skies, denying T1.
Canyon immediately recognizing that he needs to drop directly into that backline. That is Mountain Soul now. It is a Baron. This game is looking really tough for T1.
And despite that fight towards Otacon, the play with Keria taking out the enemy jungler, Owner being able to secure the smite, the stalling from Gen.G was the big factor there. The fact that Senna kept them top, and that even though the objective went down, I think Gen.G are going to take that trade any day of the week.
Gen.G, the masters of these wars of attrition, playing for those little sums. Obviously not ideal to give up the Otacon, but recognize that those health bars are low, that the advantage is theirs, and push it to the fullest extent. 8K gold lead, Baron power play. Yeah, Keria can stop it back here, but there's no threat. Can't even do that. Can't even get through the mountain shield.
Mountain shield blocking it there. And Gen.G's patience is second to none, as the priceless moment of the game is Gen.G have already gotten themselves a fight lead, were able to take down the enemy jungler at the beginning here. There's no Faker. They just don't have the necessary damage. And with that soul, I think Gen.G is about to go up to match point here in game number 3.
Yeah, and there you saw, again, Canyon really recognizing, okay, the one damage dealer that can potentially cause us problems is Guma. Jumps immediately onto him in the backline. That's what we talked about with this composition. The backline access coming out from this Galio Pantheon combo in tandem with the Cassante, with the Alistar. Pretty much every champion in this composition has the ability to dive either Faker or Guma on the backline of a fight.
Area. Set up a portal there. Gen.G ready to maybe take it. Will let cooler heads prevail as they just continue the siege on tier 2s, and this is where it gets difficult. I think just 5 minutes ago, Chronicler, you mentioned the ability for Ruler to siege solo, but now has the entire team there to back him up. Only 50 seconds left on the Baron, so just this wave and the next, but T1 need to hold on. Lockdown onto Keen, exhaust there, he's unstoppable, just a use of the Pathmaker. Decent damage, but again, the ulti over the top from Ruler.
They just don't have the damage. Even getting for the Mountain Shield alone took them a bunch of cooldowns.
Canyon goes in, quick ulti out, and now the response coming in. Good damage, follow up, Keen, knocked up! Owner finds the angle, ulti over the top coming in from Faker. Ulti not going to connect from Keria, but it might not matter. Chovy trying to keep this one going, though. Massive damage going in for the Galio. Canyon living for an extra moment, but Owner finds another in the clutch. Chovy going back in for Guma, though, and Ruler's still alive. The Senna's still alive. T1 need to take down Ruler, but they're out of cooldowns. They're out of damage, and they're out of hope in this game 3.
Faker barely living on the back half of that, but you're absolutely right, Dracos. It's Ruler. He is the main carry that you need to take out. Up. Chovy gonna clear out that ward, doesn't end up finding Faker.
He doesn't know, doesn't actually get it. Gen.G, I think, have actually lost games right there in that earlier spot, as Duro and Ruler decide, not today. They did get the flash onto Ruler. This was a big overextension from Gen.G, and this is, I think, with T1, another reminder, cannot underestimate them, cannot give them an opening. The damage is still there. Death cap is about to be done for Faker. Guma's sitting on free items. I think Gen.G is not going to give them an opportunity like that, but in 2 minutes, this Baron, if Gen.G can somehow walk into a choke point versus 4 people again, might be an angle for T1. I don't think they should be allowed to leave the base, though.
I don't think so either. But again, you highlight the death cap. Guma's starting to really hurt in the context of these fights. Carry with the Bard ult is the perfect setup. While everyone on the team on the side of Gen.G can do what they want to try and disrupt T1 from getting under Ruler, if he gets caught by that ulti and anyone on T1 is in a position to follow, he is very, very squishy, very vulnerable. The locket will not be enough, nor will the barrier.
And those are the kind of picks that T1 are going to have to look at, because if they take out Ruler, then Faker takes over, right? Then Guma takes over. We just saw how much damage can come out of these carries when they are able to actually get any sort of access.
Over the wall. Again, don't want to give them the chance to breathe. Canyon stepping pretty far forward, but Carrier still has access to his ultimate.
We do have Chovy rather also finishing his death cap himself, so isn't just Faker that's sitting on that item right now, 4 items for him. And this is the real issue for T1. Outside of the Bard ult, you're engaged. Pretty telegraphed, Owner jumping in, Doran going in, even as a sound cue as desperately trying to hold on.
TP in from Doran. Owner kicking things off. Third auto primed and ready to go. We'll just back away. T1 want to hold on to as much of their base as they can. As long as that inhibitor doesn't fall, they're in an okay spot to potentially contest the next objective. Owner trading blows, tries to make his way out of the taunt. Duro on the way into the mid lane. Finds the lockup, and Owner in trouble now. Forced to flash back into safety. Keen immediately into the back line. Gumiushi has a decent angle to get things kicked off, but it might not matter. Keen doing so much work. 2v1 against the T1 carries. Doran dies in the blink of an eye, and Gen.G go for the throat.
And that's the exact backline access we were talking about with this composition. This should be the backbreaker. This should be game. After this, Gen.G are going to be on match point.
Slow, steady suffocation from Gen.G. A single fight is all they need to turn this game into not a lot of opportunities for T1. The T1 gonna have to watch their Nexus falls as Gen.G go up 2-1.
Locked up, knocked down. Gen.G slow, controlled, confident, move on to match point.
You outside of
and you saw, even though T1 were able to get prio, and I thought they played around that prio really, really well early, it got to a point where they felt really hesitant to try to contest Gen.G, especially if Gen.G were able to get something off of a reset or get a small trade on the opposite side of the map. You'll be happy to know, Dracos, that the TF has been eliminated.
We found the answer. It didn't show up earlier in the series, but now that we're into game 4 and 30 champions are off the board, 36 now that we've exited the first phase of bans. T1 will finally hit the bench as an instant quirky pickup here. Wanting more power early on. Maybe playing for a prio bot lane, perhaps a flex option.
Yeah, could be mid for Faker as well.
In the last 5 years, some really beautiful and detailed games have released. Cyberpunk, Stalker 2, Black Myth Wukong, Kingdom Come 2, Metro Exodus and so many others. Yet looking even as recent as 10 years back, these older games look and feel somehow much more cleaner, sharper, and even maybe more detailed or prettier. So what happened in the last 5 years that made nearly every high quality game look so ugly, filled with grainy visuals or artifacting or ghosting lines, or just simply look like smeary blurry mess as if somebody rubbed Vaseline in your eyes? While also producing fewer frames per second, even though today's hardware is far more capable. Have modern game graphics regressed in their pursuit to push higher resolution textures, more detailed models, or even more complex lighting? Who or what is to be blamed for the industry smearing Vaseline in our eyes? Well, let's find out. Over the years, game developers have tried all manner of methods to push the game graphics forward. However, along with that also comes the question of who cares? After all, the recent Battlefield 2044 failure, while the success of something as low poly as BattleBit, at least on the launch, are a perfect example of how gameplay is the king. Even the more recent success of Schedule 1 or something as old and as living dumpster fire nightmare as Roblox lends some credence to the notion that gameplay is what the gamers want first of all. "Oh, but that does not look cool in screenshots," says the marketing man. "How are we gonna entice and or trick people into buying yet another modern slop action game, like for example Star Wars Outlaws, if the game looks old or, God forbid, low quality?" And then Ubisoft proceeds to make the first ever quadruple A game, Skull and Bones, that looks like this.
I don't owe you a sliver up your ass.
Now the point being, these big games keep pushing graphics because, well, people are idiots. It's a lot easier to convince someone that the game is of high quality if it has pretty visuals. And there is a certain truth to having good looking game and it being fun to play, mainly thanks to the good looks. However, I noticed that, especially in the last 5 years, majority of the best looking games that put emphasis on graphics actually have been looking really bad. Like noticeably worse than 10, if not 15-year-old games before them. And so that prompted me to take a look at the history of game graphics and why they fail. And maybe we can spot why the modern game in particular seems to look worse than its predecessors. Let's then start with the infamous piss filter. The golden shower era of gaming was the start of art directors trying to incestuously copy each other, abandoning all semblance of reason for style, just because Cliffy B's Gears of War and a few other titles were hyper popular. Now thankfully this era is done and gone. However, tinting and coloring your games in a certain degree still happens. Like for example the recent Starfield having a different type of a filter depending on what planet you visit, and that being very pronounced. See, normally a little bit of filtering here and there is not a bad thing. However, when those filters are a bit too much, you start to realize why reshade mods that remove these filters are so popular. See, a good filter adds a style or a tone. A bad one makes it look like piss.
Welcome back to the army, soldier. Shit.
Alright, now that we're good and lubed up, let's start with the first horseman of bad visual apocalypse. The bloom, motion blur, and depth of field. Now back in mid-2000s, bloom became one of the first post-processing effects that, shall we say, had a certain look. Now, while bloom overall helps to emphasize some glowing objects, back in those early days, developers simply cranked it up for everything, turning your screen into a lightly Vaseline-smeared mess.
So we begin at nope, I'm stopping again. Notice how the sky is so bright and vibrant while the terrain is dark as oil? Well, a lot of games in the mid-2000s had horrendous lighting, not because of technology limitations, but because a lot of art directors collectively lost their damn minds. See, around this time, graphics technology was able to add a full-screen bloom effect via hardware. So because it was new, developers decided it was the answer to everything. I honestly can't understand how anyone thought this was a good idea. I think this is hideous. I mean, sure, this might be good as a special effect, like looking at the sun or during an explosion, but no, just smear it on absolutely everything and call that progress.
Now today, thankfully, developers have learned to use this method sparingly and in right places. But even with that, plenty of mods exist only to remove this effect alone. Now as for motion blur and depth of field, oh fuck me sideways. Ever since developers got access to programmable shaders and could read the depth buffer, that is, get information of how far certain pixels are from the screen, the industry-wide cinematic evolution has taken hold. Well, hey, you know, real-life cameras have focal lengths, and the bokeh effect where the background is blurred in the background, yeah, is very cinematic. So let's make our games more cinematic with more cinema, so that we can cinematic ourselves into the grave. Now this effect was the worst thing in FPS games, my favorite genre, and that's why I'm also today presenting so many FPS games. Now Now sure, in real life your eyes focuses on the thing that you're looking at. However, when you're looking at the screen, you're not just looking at the middle of it, don't you? And so at the best of cases, that the field is an annoying effect. And at worst, it actively harms your gameplay. But it's not all bad. For cutscenes, or if you want to hide how low quality models are in the distance for LOD, it still can be a cool effect. However, the same cannot be said about motion blur, another effect that is made to simulate how our eyes and cameras work. Now, unlike depth of field, this actively ruins gameplay every time it's included, and you can thank console peasantry for its widespread adoption. See, more than anything, motion blur, in early days and even today, is used to hide inconsistent frame rates, which consoles running at 30 FPS were doing constantly. This is why motion blur in some games is automatically turned on, even on the lowest settings. And while sure, while you're watching this video, you probably think, well, it looks pretty nice and it's more pleasant to look at. However, while playing the game, you expect the picture to be sharp and clear and consistent, and that's not what motion blur is. It's a smeary, blurry mess, and hence the intense hatred for it. It's also kind of funny that Activision Blizzard, out of all the things, have found a way to make this effect even more annoying in the modern Call of Duty reboots. Instead of motion blurring the environment as you're turning around, by default, there's also motion blur on your weapons. At first I seriously thought that my eyes were going crazy, but no, after filming and looking back at the footage, I was not crazy. This is how bad the blur looks. The grainy piece of shit! LOD, or level of detail, an optimization method that improves performance by simply replacing faraway models with lower complexity ones. The most hilarious example in a modern game you can see is in Cyberpunk, where they simply opted for badly looking sprites. However, the transition between the low poly model and the higher detail one can often be very jarring. Or the game engine can shit its pants and remove the object completely, like in Cyberpunk. Or like in Skyrim, simply pop the model into the scene. So in order to smooth out this transition, you can do a bunch of things, and what game developers as long back as Crysis 1 have opted for is dithering. And I utterly despise this method. But you see, what makes this effect worse is the developers tend to put this transitioning effect speed very slowly, so this is where you notice it. And also, very often it's very close to the camera too, whereas in Crysis 1 it was only used for the distant objects. And also, dithering effect is very dependent on your resolution. The bigger the screen, the smaller the effect, as you can see here. And more importantly, the closer to the camera it is, the more brazen this effect becomes, like for example in Cyberpunk. Now sure, the alternative is either to model pop-in, as with no transitions like in Skyrim, or expensive alpha channel blends that most often don't look that much better either. And that's kind of the thing, the dithering effect is often used for transparency replacement. And yet game developers also have used this effect on something like particle effects or hair, which outside of stylized game look is horrible. And the worst case example you can immediately notice in Cyberpunk's plants. Notice how plants seem to be boiling, which is most noticeable in 720p since it's bigger pixels and bigger dithering effect. Now I'm no graphics programmer or an artist, so what the hell do I know, but to me this looks bad, and CDPR should feel bad. But worst of all, why do plants need dithering effect in the first place when they're not LOD swapping? So the only assumption I'm left with is that the plants are so complex that letting them be rendered full-on, like hair without dithering, would cause massive performance issues. And I'm sorry, but at that point, have you heard of model optimization? Now sure, Cyberpunk has some genuinely amazing things in it, but shit like this makes my blood boil. And sure, I get it, dithering is very performance cost effective compared to alpha blending, but it looks like complete ass. Now see, it's one thing to use dithering for LOD transitions far away, and the closer it gets to the camera, the worse it gets. But it's a whole other thing to leave that effect on full display shamelessly. Case in point, Stalker 2. Now I can only hazard a guess as to why dithering effect is still left on the trees. Now maybe it really is the Unreal Engine 5's nanite LOD optimization, but if that's the case, I get another reason to say fuck nanite. But hold on, if developers used to use this transition back in the day only for the distant targets, why are games like Stalker 2 using it in static objects in the distance? Or like in Cyberpunk, on plants so close to the camera that you could reach out and touch it even? Well, because they know they can get away with it, thanks to another technique that turns stuff like this into this. Which leads us nicely into Anti-aliasing, the friend and foe of gaming, aiming to provide greater visual clarity free of jaggies or pixel stair-stepping at a cost of some performance. Undisputed best method for this is super sampling. This method simply renders a higher resolution image and then downscales it to your native resolution, which allows for the best pixel smoothing. However, SSAA comes at an extreme performance hit, so all the other anti-aliasing methods aim to replicate the visual clarity while lowering the performance hit, be that through detecting only edges and smoothing those, or sampling every pixel multiple times. So where's the failure in that? Well, there isn't, as a matter of fact. Since we're talking about the visual clarity of the games, SSAA is an example of actual success that is simply needed for a context. Temporal anti-aliasing, the smelly king of bullshit. Basically, every anti-aliasing method aims to replicate what the SSAA is capable of, or, in lieu of that, at least smooth out the jaggies. However, unlike most other aliasing methods, TAA stands out as the method that utilizes past frames, with additional technical mumbo-jumbo that I bet only I give a fuck about, so let's move on. What most people will know this method for is one thing. It smears your screen with Vaseline, and unlike Bloom, it's everywhere, especially in things that move fast. So, you know, gameplay. However, there is a positive to this technique and why it's used today. It's really fast. And then pair it with an option to render the frame at a lower resolution and then upscale it and smooth it out with TAA creates a relatively impressive quality. Hence, certain developers really love it because of the performance boost. In fact, the first game ever to utilize this anti-aliasing method apparently was Battle Forge, developed by Microsoft. Oh no! Look at that, the game is dead. Well, remember kids, support stop killing games. So instead, the first game that you can still play with this method is Rise, Son of Rome, apparently. And what a surprise, Crytek made it as well. From gaming graphics giants to gaming graphics slayers. What a terrible curse you have unleashed on the industry. And yet the ghoulification of game graphics don't stop simply with the smearing. Since this is a temporal method, meaning that the time involvement is there, or more specifically TAA uses the past frame data to approximate which pixels need blurring more, this means the further ruination of anything in motion. So as soon as you start moving, especially in fast-paced games, most notably FPS games where you whip your camera around, the overall experience only gets worse. And we're not stopping there either. Ghosting also becomes a thing. Jesus fucking Christ. Now, okay, sure, this implementation is a rather rare edge case, but trust me, even mild ghosting gets pretty annoying. And not to stop there either, it will only get worse from here on. So then, why? Why do developers insist on using these more and more clearly visually degrading methods? Well, I told you. Performance. See, because TAA allows developers to render the frame at a lower resolution and smear it out with TAA with relatively little visual fidelity loss, and I struggle to use those words. Sure, while the camera is slowly panning around, or better yet, on a still frame, yeah, there is very little noticeable degradation. So, who cares what you think, stinky idiots? My game's marketing team says the screenshots look great! It's beyond infuriating how widespread this gaslighting of TAA acceptance has become. Sure, it might be good for still frames, but guess what 99% of the games do with their gameplay? Have action and loads of movement in it! And this is exactly where the greatest graphics ever get utterly destroyed. No, but it's worth it, right? At least it smears out the dithering effect and makes it look almost acceptable. And yeah, that is true, that's the only positive of TAA. It makes another effect almost palatable. Which is why developers think that they can afford shoving dithering effect right in your face. Hooray! You did it! You saved hair and particle effects! Whoopee! Oh, but hold on, why then the cyberpunk plants still look like complete ass? Oh yeah, right, we forgot that TAA also introduces ghosting! Oh, but come on, Yammers, it's just an effect, it's optional! You can disable it, right? Here's the thing with many games like Cyberpunk or game engines like Unreal Engine 5, they are relying on TAA always to be there in order to make the gameplay look like what the artist had designed in the first place. And many of them go a step above to prevent you from changing anti-aliasing method. And like in, for example, Cyberpunk, Well, you can't technically remove TAA, you have to do it through mods. That's how ingrained this method has become. It's no longer an option, it's a necessity. A necessity to ruin game graphics, whatever quality they might have been. And it only got worse, goddammit, while replaying some old great looking games, like for example Metro Exodus, while running into some game-breaking bugs. Yeah, all Metro games are really poorly QA tested, but that's not the focus today. I originally thought that, this is one of the last games that didn't use TAA. But while I was aiming at something, you know, having an important gameplay focus moment, there it was, ghosting. In the worst possible place, in your crosshairs. Now, since you can change quite a bit of things through config file rather than in-game settings, another annoyance of mine, but regardless, you could turn off TAA as well. So, I did. Jesus fucking Christ! The first frame remains and breaks the visuals. What the hell? That was kind of a weird thing on the first launch, but regardless, where there's TAA, there's always dithering effect, and hence, here it is, in all of its splendor and ugliness. Sure, it is used for the distance stuff and so on and so forth, however, in Metro Exodus especially, turning off TAA will also turn off some lighting effects and some smoke stuff, or something. But the point is, do you need any more evidence that games these days expect you to blur the screen in order to have quote-unquote expected experience, especially visually? And having full resolution, sharp image is no longer being given as an option. See, the thing is, once every about 5 years I buy the best possible PC on the market. In this case, just recently I did that. And the Red Commie, as I call it, finally can run 4K ultra settings on pretty much every game I choose. And for me, every time I do this, it's really fun to not boot up the latest, greatest games, but old ones that used to be the top of the line, best looking games, and seeing how well they run today. That used to be the case for Crysis, now it is for Cyberpunk, and a few other ones as well, as you can see. But the 4K ultra settings and 200 frames a second is just wonderful. The image is crisp, sharp, and the game, even on the 4K, still holds up. That's so cool. However, the more recent the game, the more I notice ugly crap being pushed onto us, while running on those ultra settings, those maximum graphics. And the more recent the game, the more I see developers just saying, fuck you, here's Vaseline on your screen. It just makes me sad. And even if you can remove temporal aliasing in options like in Stalker 2, or through mods like in Cyberpunk, the dithering effect will remain unless you get your hands on source code of the game, so good luck with that. So when it comes to the best looking games in the today's market, you either choose a very grainy dither effect filled game, or a smeary one with temporal aliasing. Because there currently exists no other effect that smooths it out like temporal aliasing, while remaining the proper quality, without artifacting, ghosting, or just a Vaseline look. Oh, and don't you worry, like I said, it only gets worse from here on. Let's talk about upscalers! Yay! Kill me! So then, upscalers in recent 5 years have become the biggest performance crutch for genuinely incompetent developers, to a point that now there are games out there using upscalers as part of their recommended and minimum spec. Case in point, the recent Monster Hunter Wilds. Right, additional notes. SSD required, this game is expected to run 1080p. Okay. Upscaled to 720 native resolution, 30 FPS on the lowest graphics setting. Jesus fucking Christ! And this game does not look like something that would need an upscaler to run on modern hardware at an acceptable frame rate. So clearly, instead of optimizing the game properly, let's just slap a lower resolution frame and call it an acceptable way to play it at a higher, because of fakey fake bullshit. Oh, but that's not all! Oh, recommended spec. Additional notes. SSD required. This game is expected to run 1080p, 60 FPS. Oh, that's pretty... hold on. With frame generation enabled. Under the medium graphics setting... Excuse me? What? Yeah, we're gonna get into the fake frame generation soon, but first the upscalers themselves. So then, originally DLSS and FSR were used to allow high-resolution gaming than is possible currently on hardware.
The TLDR then is this. AMD's best puts up a valiant effort for the $500 price difference against the 3090, sometimes coming close or even beating it at 8K. but only sometimes. It still falls short in more demanding titles, even with its greater overclocking headroom, which only serves to further highlight the importance of technologies like DLSS and how much not having it is holding AMD back right now. And not just in ray tracing either. Outside of Doom Eternal, which surprisingly was quite a bit smoother on AMD, GDDR6 seems to be helping NVIDIA out tremendously. Because remember, 8K is 4 times the number of pixels as 4K. Just the frame buffer alone, that is, each frame displayed on the screen, is nearly 128 megabytes, which is exactly enough to hobble the 6000 series 128 megabytes of ridiculously fast Infinity Cache, leaving them with memory that's just over half as fast as Ampere's for everything else. With that said, if AMD had a DLSS analog to reduce this memory footprint, AMD might have been more competitive more often. So then, is 8K gaming a lie? Well, it's complicated. While I participated in some of NVIDIA's early promotion for 8K gaming on the RTX 3090, and it does work in the same way that a primitive hammer can pound in a nail, it's clear that it's not practical for every game today. And as more visually elaborate titles trickle out over the next few years, new hammers will be much more appropriate tools to handle them at this resolution. While you might roll your eyes and say, who cares? Nobody has an 8K monitor. The same was true for 4K a short while ago. And even if you only use a 4K display, super sampling or running at a higher resolution than native, then downscaling it is still the best way to reduce shimmering and other artifacts while preserving 100% of the detail in an image. And 4x super sampling at 4K means rendering at 8K. Anyway, the main takeaway is that neither AMD nor NVIDIA is even close to creating a GPU that can natively run 8K maxed out AAA games, and that upscaling tricks are here to stay.
And that's the thing, upscaling technologies are great to reach these super high resolutions like 16K or even 8K. Or, and this is where it really shined the most, allowing the lowest power devices, like for example Steam Deck, to run more modern games in the first place, like Cyberpunk. Now sure, you'll still be running a low resolution image, but with extra processing you can claw back a little bit of visual fidelity, while the leftover performance from that drop allows you to get better performance overall, going from a cinematic 30 FPS to a proper 60 perhaps, on those low power devices like your grandpa's PC or a Steam Deck. Now what these tools are not okay is for incompetent developers to call their unoptimized games to be called playable at 60 FPS as long as you're using upscalers. Honestly, this kind of shit should be illegal. And in case of Monster Hunter, it really is the case of, hey, you can run our games at 1080p so long as you drop the resolution and not play in 1080p. Idiot. Or what about Cyberpunk? Every single graphics preset is set up to enable FSR. How fucked is that? So does that mean that the game and the developers are telling me that an ultra quality preset, the best possible quality, is achieved in their minds with FSR? But that's not all. It's not just about dropping resolution and calling it a day. If you might have noticed that upscalers today do resemble quite a lot of temporal anti-aliasing, just with a sharpening filter with extra effects on top of it. Which, frankly, they kinda are. Smeary visuals? Check. And emotion increases smeariness? Check. Ghosting? Oh hell yes, even more than TAA alone. Honestly, it's gotten so bad that I can play any game and within 10 seconds I can determine not only what upscaler is being used, but also what setting the developer has set up for the current graphics setting. And hey, you want to see just how bad the upscaling bullshit can go? I present you Stalker 2. This is a crisp 4K image with epic setting. And this is Stalker 2 Potato Pizdets Edition. Yep, do take in the horror and the disgusting nature of the zone. Notice that the game now looks so bad that you can't tell whether or not you're looking at Vadim's face or his ass. And so tell me, how did any developer, especially an artist, allow this kind of visual to go on their game? But okay, let's say that it's all in the name of performance. Well, tell me then, where the fuck is my performance going? This kind of crap is struggling to reach 160 frames a second, while at the same time Crysis 1 from 2007, at maximum settings and 1080p, manages over 200. About the same frame rate as Cyberpunk can do on absolute lowest settings. And yeah, you could say that this is not a fair comparison, but honestly, who cares? Fact of the matter is, just like I previously mentioned with the TAA, now upscalers are almost expected as mandatory. Because like TAA, it smears out things like the dithering effect, it's a benefit all around, except for us, the player. So, like I said previously, either you enjoy full-scale native resolution, low frame rate but crisp image, or have to suck it up and enjoy a smeary mess. And sadly, there is no in-between. And this trend, more than anything, has made the modern games look far worse than the games in previous years. And I got to emphasize this again, so listen carefully. This is the problem. The reason why people hate temporal aliasing or upscaler look is not just because it's an optional thing, because it has become mandatory thing. Because so many of these greatest graphics ever games most often don't even allow you to turn it off. And when they do, the picture turns into a grainy bullshit. Oh, and speaking of grainy picture, especially when we're talking about Stalker 2, this is an Unreal 5 game, and every single game using this engine has to use baked-in Lumen for lighting calculations. Now, there are plenty of problems with Lumen, but most notably, it tries to emulate ray tracing even if the graphics card you're using doesn't have any ray tracing cores. Hence, the shadows without any aliasing constantly seem to be dithering or jittering around, and this is why recent Unreal games have been looking so grainy without any aliasing. And that's kind of the thing with the ray tracing overall. It also relies on denoisers as well as temporal aliasing to smear things out in order to look somewhat palatable. And yet again, personally, I would much rather prefer a grainy, noisy picture if that would mean I would see the detail in it. And trust me, ray tracing is the future of game graphics in my opinion. The only thing that is stopping us right now is the fact that hardware is just too weak. So in time, it will come. But until then, well, we have to rely on additional approximation technologies. But returning to TAA, it seems that game developers in the last 10 years especially have been sold the dream of how temporal anti-aliasing will improve the performance while retaining the visual quality.
We wanted to have really clean and stable images for this game. And in early 2014, we began looking into temporal anti-aliasing. And I whipped up a quick first implementation of this based on what was available on the internet and in my own head, and it quickly became our primary anti-aliasing solution during production.
And this propagated lie has been going on for so long that the uglification of our games have resulted in game engines expecting you to use upscalers in the first place. And so it's not just my feeling that something's been ruining the game visuals in recent years, it's clearly visible to all. Temporal anti-aliasing is used and abused, lazy developers implement upscalers as crutches for performance, while the game engine developers, you know the ones, sell them the lie of, oh well, the automatic optimizer algorithms like Nanite will do the work for you so you can go back to making worlds you love. But guess what? None of the current automatic optimization algorithms or methods actually work, and they're similar in the stupidity of vibe coding. Now, sure, they are better than nothing, but they are far and away from competing with the age-old traditional manual optimization. And well, one day ray tracing will eventually solve these problems. Hardware today is not yet there. And I get it, optimization does take a lot of time and effort, but it is worth it. And like I said near the start, gameplay is king. So tell me, what kind of a gameplay can you have with the stuttery, low frame rate mess, even if you have the best graphics in the world? And yes, this definitely is a stab at Star Citizen. And more than that, what the hell is the point of the best graphics in the world if you're gonna be required to smear them in order to get the full quote-unquote quality out of it? I look out in horror as genuinely great looking games and hard-working artists who poured their souls and efforts into creating something genuinely beautiful and awe-inspiring, to get obliterated, ruined and erased in one fell swoop by a horribly disgusting method. So fuck temporal anti-aliasing.
It can predict the future, generating 3 additional frames for every frame that we calculate.
Oh fuck, we still got the topic to talk about. Alright, so yeah, remember Monster Hunter and its recommended spec asking for frame generation in order to meet the bare minimum of 60 FPS on 1080p? Yeah, fucking hell, the parody is writing itself now. Hey guys, our game will be 60 FPS so long as you agree that missing or still frames are still real frames, right? Oh Jesus, the I identify as a real frame joke is now writing itself. However, as fake as frame generation is, well, it actually works. Well, kind of. Now let's take for example Stalker 2 again. The feeling of extra frames really can make the experience a bit more enjoyable. However, for FPS games, this is a very noticeable and undesirable technique. Now sure, you gain the frame fluidity, which is really nice, but the latency at best is the same of the original low frame rate. So you still notice the delay, and shall we say it all kinda turns into jello-y feeling. Still, for more narrative-based games, honestly, I would say that this is a pretty good technology. However, Nvidia decided that, nah, that's too good, let's fuck with the concept of game graphics somehow with this technology too. Presenting not just one fake frame for every normal frame, but how about 3 of them? And they all look like shit. No, seriously, ever since the Nvidia 50 series GPUs, the 3 fake frames per 1 real frame method actually measurably is another step into the dumpster fire.
Frame generation serves as a smoothing solution between frames. Because it's artificially generating frames to insert, we can regularly observe issues where not all fake frames are created fake equal. In this frame by fake frame, you can see issues with trailing or leading edge objects in motion as they leave ghosting or sparkling in their wake. In some instances, user interfaces distort and duplicate during fake frames. And during multi-frame generation, during multi-frame generation, sorry, I didn't say that right.
So, what the hell did we even learn today? Well, game developers do from time to time come up with some great visuals and games to keep progressing the visual spectacle and fidelity, there is no doubt about that. At the same time, in efforts of trying to optimize and improve performance, the race to the bottom has truly kicked in, where all subtlety and carefully masked effects like dithering fading for LODs in the distance now is pushed into our faces, while using uglier and uglier effects to hide the previous effects' flaws. TAA used to mask the dithering effect, sharpening filters used to mask the smeariness of TAA, and ultimately lower resolutions paired with the TAA smeariness and sharpening effects used to mask the lack of optimization and general performance, along of course with the frame generation, which leads the games to neither looking good nor running well. So you're left wondering, what the hell was even the point? And even though game artists are designing ever more beautiful models and worlds for us to play in, their beautiful art is instantly eroded and ruined as soon as you start having gameplay, thanks to upscalers. Now I ask developers of these cutting-edge graphically impressive games, what the fuck is the point of your artists making these high-detail worlds if you'll ruin it by smearing Vaseline everywhere? Also that only screenshots look hyper-detailed for your marketing team? No, seriously, how can any art or performance teams look at the footage like this and not feel ashamed? Where the hell is the quality? Where are my graphics? And in lieu of that, where the fuck is my performance at then? But all that doom and gloom aside, there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. Stalker 2 still looks amazing if they get the performance running. Cyberpunk could be better if they actually worked on the fucking LOD properly and removed the TAA and dithering effects up close. And for Starfield, yeah, moving on. Even though Unreal Engine in particular has been pushing the temporal smearing bullshit the hardest, and other major engine developers following suit, such games as Doom Eternal and Kingdom Come 2 at least beating Crysis 1 on the lowest graphics settings while still looking better is sign of a good progress. This is the result of not perfect but good optimization, especially in the case of Doom Eternal, as well as a lot better and newer graphics API, but still. At the very least, we know that not every game or engine developer has been sucking the TAA, upscaling, and frame generation Kool-Aid. So, what about you folks? What do you think? Have games gotten worse looking? Or is Javish just yelling at a cloud again? And since we're on the topic, which game trends or features in your mind have been the biggest failures of game graphics? Do let me know down below. But most of all, remember, fuck TAA. And support my fight for better game graphics by visiting my Patreon down below. Support your fight for better visuals and not more smeary nonsense like these fine folk. I'm out. Bleh.
They saw many men on foot, all starving.
He met them.
We saw a captain there, the one called a Gluka.
Ask him if one of these men is the one he's calling a Gluka.
Guat ilat a Gluka?
He
spoke in our tongue. He was dying. He pointed south. Says they were going overland, home. But they could barely walk. It was Tumbok behind them.
Tumbok?
Behind them, coming. Always coming.
Someone was pursuing them. An Eskimo?
From the shamans. The thing that eats in 2 legs and 4. The thing made of muscles and spells.
I don't understand. Is he describing a man?
Sorry, Sir James. I don't know what the hell he's describing.
What did Francis say? A Gluka.
Your friend took my hands. He said, tell those who come after us not to stay. The ships are gone. There is no way through, no passage. Tell them we are gone. Dead. And gone.
Daily observations are starting to make for bizarre readings, sir.
Well, magnetic north wanders miles every day. We're within its circle now.
It'll be cool headlines for the men.
Terror is signaling, Sir John. Captain Crozier requests an ice report. Shall I send Mr. Reed back?
No, tell Francis James and I will be joining him for dinner.
Mr. Terry! Open the flag box!
Word has it they've not yet run out of beef tongue of terror.
To it, lads!
Of all the hardships of the Discovery Service, this may be the toughest.
It's 3 courses tonight, and a dessert. It'll be over before you know it, Captain.
Not if Fitzjames is with us. We'll have to hear his whole saga of policing that massive guano deposit off Namibia. At the time he got shot by the Chinese. Looks like a pit of food in my ears.
I haven't settled the matter of spirits for tonight, sir. Sir John abstains, of course, and it's all sops for the rest. But is there anything special you require, sir?
More open water, clear to the Pacific, and then we can go home.
We're close, sir.
Be careful how you use that word. Close. This is the Discovery Service. Close is nothing. It's worse than nothing. It's worse than anything in the world.
Welcome aboard, Sir John. Captain Fitzjames.
If we're that near the pole, we'll see King William Land any day then.
Oku's an expert.
Mr. Fast showed me on the chart. Past King William Land, we get to the American coast, and it's all mapped out again from there.
That thing mined all night. Must be sick or got a scent. With the right wind, smell bears at a mile.
Well, the brigade's already ashore were catching every kind of fire, so I was bringing up the Congreve.
The rockets?
Yes. Ironic, considering it was the Chinese themselves who pioneered the things. We shot the marksman down off the city walls and we started up. As I climbed the ladder, I was thinking of Caesar crossing the Rubicon. We reached the top and I saw the city of Qingqiang laid out before us, wavering in the morning heat. And the soldiers in the alleys below started using their matchlocks on us, those muskets for which you carry a lit taper at all times, but in such dry conditions. When we'd shoot one of them, they would fall down on top of these tapers and they would catch fire like tinder piles. So soon, the whole city was dotted with these lone columns of personal smoke, and the whole view smelled of roast duck. And then we rushed down into the streets to assist the 49th, which we could hear was under attack. We came upon a pack of Chinese behind a street barricade. Now, I just loaded a rocket and aimed when I was pierced. Single musket ball, size of a cherry. Passed clean through my arm and kept on in, making a third wound here, entering my chest.
Like the shot that killed Lord Nelson at Trafalgar.
And had it not used up most of its energy on my arm, yes, I might have ended. Same as he.
Tell us about Burchett Island, why don't you, James? That's a capital story.
Mr. Reed and I chatted about the ice today. He tells me he started sailing past slabs he thinks are not part of the summer breakup.
Old ice?
He's not concerned. He thinks we're close to an intersection with some bigger channel coming down from the north, bringing bergy bits with it. But it means our little summer strait is likely coming to an end. It is yet to be named, and I thought Sir James Ross could be honored thusly.
Hear, hear. Would that he were here with us now, but for being a newlywed.
You approve, Francis?
He'll be very pleased.
What rank is that dog? You ever wonder that?
He's on decks most nights, so I guess you could call that watch duty.
I don't know. That'd make him AB or Marine.
But he can walk the quarterdeck, so that makes him a petty officer at least. Right? There's some niceties back there in officers' country. Petty officers can't sleep aft. So would that be considered a wardroom officer? What would that be? A mate? A lieutenant? Are we still talking about this dog? That's a consequence, though, isn't it? Putting a dog above a man, I'm used to observing that arrangement.
It's a ship's dog. We put up with it.
Yes.
David!
Get a doctor now! Come on! Roll him over!
I don't want to be the first one to say the word, Sir John, but we're all thinking it.
None of the three who died at Beachy showed any sign of it. And even if it's the case now, we will be in the Pacific before it has a chance to don its Undertaker's weepers.
Your confidence is reassuring, of course. You're not confident with all our progress?
I don't know why. We've all but found the passage in a year. We're not rowing Drakkars after all.
In this place, technology still bends the knee to luck, James.
Sir, we've given the boy a Dover's powder and settled his spasms. He's resting now, as he can. But he has dark blood in his stool, digested blood. He's bleeding above his colon.
It's a vivid description.
Is it scurvy?
Though I see nothing to mark it as such, I can't rule it out. But if I were to wager a guess at this point, I'd say the patient's consumptive. Doesn't always attack the lungs.
Dr. Stanley should examine him. Perhaps he can discern something more.
I'll send a gig for him.
No, there's no need. We'll take him with us.
Young? In his condition?
Yes. Wrap him up well and have our boat ready.
I would hesitate to move him, sir. I don't frankly know how much spirit the boy has left in him.
Bit of cool air will freshen him. He'll be tucked up just the same in half an hour's time.
Ready now? Lead the way.
Oh, Francis, tell your cook yes to the car's head, no to the capers he cooked it with. For future visits.
Good night, Francis. Try to shade the brown study. All is well.
All clear. Either way.
There is nothing worse than a man who has lost his joy. Become insufferable. And he's at Lushington to boot.
We should be better friends to him, James.
I can't work out why he's even here. He despises glory, even the glory of a good pudding. And he looks down on we of the wardroom. Only one glance from him. I have to remind myself I'm not a fraud.
I'll not have you speak of him uncharitably, James. He's my second. And if something were to happen to me, you would be his second. You should cherish that.
Sometimes I think you love your men more than even God loves them, Sir John.
For all your sakes, let's hope you're wrong.
Ready up! Ready to let go the boat! Give me room! Give me room! Collins! No! Let me try! That seaman wouldn't want you to risk more! Billy Oren, that's who it is! He's gone!
What I fail to understand is why you chose not to speak up when you began feeling this take root wide.
I've been getting headaches all my life. Didn't think nothing of it. And we've been drinking that squeezed lemon every night.
Crew's under strictest orders to come forward if unwell. I'd think burying 3 of your mates on Beachy was sufficient motivation.
The lemon juice is not a cure-all.
I didn't want to disappoint Sir John.
Well, he can praise your loyalty as he buries you.
We can't spin the propeller, nor retract it. Mr. Reed is certain we must have caught a growler under the surface.
So is it blocked?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Gregory thinks there must be ice wedged up in the prop well. But we won't know till first light. The orbit assured me if we can clear out a jam, we'll be underway.
Good. I think that's all for now then, Grain, since we don't appear to be sinking. Wake me if that should change.
Algonquin, massacred by Mohawk.
Did that disturb you?
Which part, Francis? The savages or that they became Catholics?
I have a question for you later.
No question is needed, Francis.
But you'll hear me out.
Sir James Ross, and furthest south.
If you believe that depiction, you've dropped a stone at least since we've been back.
You've seen a dentist as well, apparently.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's our great honor to find up in the boxes tonight the actual Sir James Ross.
Get up, old man. Bravo, gentlemen. Bravo.
I don't want you to do to me what you did to Tom Arnold's brother.
That was for the good of the crew. We needed to know if it was scurvy killed John
I
Hartnell.
want to go to my grave as I am. Don't cut me open. Just promise.
If Sir John orders it done, we must do. You may be a warning of things to come. Hold fast, David.
If Sir John orders it, I will do it.
Do you know, sometimes when people are near passing, I've heard they speak of a radiance. Like a million daybreaks all in one, in which loved ones are there to welcome them over.
We grew up at the foundings. I never knew my father or my mum.
Then there will be the angels with songs lovelier than you've heard.
Will I fly up to God?
Yes. You'll see the passage first, then, as you go. Try to call back and let us know where it is.
I wanted to be it when we found it.
Do not fear it, David. I have been there when souls have passed. A great peace descends.
The glass But the ring is plate. It won't fetch much, but my sister should have it. It's a nasty job. But I can't get it off.
I can ask cook for some grease, or I have an oil of castors.
When you're sure I'm gone, find a way. And don't Sir John I was afraid.
You have my word. There's nothing to be afraid of.
He's been going on like that since the wind died. Something's got him worked up.
Take your wigs off. Don't you hear that? Give me a glass.
Yeah. Just don't drop it. Belongs to Lieutenant there.
Got a family.
David.
Wake Mr. Blanky. Do it now.
Run! Run! It wants us to run!
David, calm down. Come.
Sorry to disturb you. David Young has passed.
As if that weren't plain. Cover him and get some rest, Mr. Goodson. You can do the post-mortem in the morning when the men go up.
Is it necessary?
Sir John has a flea in his ear about scurvy. He will ask.
Something transpired at the end. He was seeing something I couldn't see. Holding its gaze as if it was in the room.
Do I really need to explain what is an hallucination?
He had no fever. He was clear-eyed.
Good night, Mr. Goodson.
Look at the snow on those bergy bits. That's not summer breakup. That's coming down from the north.
It's pack ice.
There are leads, but...
How was the cold last night?
It dropped. 20.
Is Erebus aware?
Well, no flags as yet, but no doubt they woke, thinking of their propeller.
If Sir John doesn't convene a meeting of the officers by 10, I'll do it myself.
You're about to surpass us all, son. You're going somewhere no man has ever been, not even a native.
If it is ice wedged behind the propeller and you can pry it out, well, you'd have grabbed the ring twice in one morning.
Right.
Observe my signals. 1 pull on the tube means half a fathom slack. 2 means the tube is kinked, likely on the gunnel. 3, pull me up. If water floods the suit, it'll be exponentially harder to lift me and exponentially more urgent, so all of you be ready on the line. There should be a surgeon here.
They're just below, Mr. Collins. Proceed.
You're a pilgrim to the deeps. And remember, God lies in all realms.
You wouldn't call this cirrhotic. And this ghoul? I don't see scurvy. I don't see anything at all.
Open the bow.
Propeller's bent. One of the blades. Upright surmise from behind. I think she'll spin now, sir.
Is there anything else to report?
No, sir.
Capital job, Mr. Collins. Graham, let the engineers know and signal terror. Have Captain Crozier bring his lieutenants over.
Sir.
We need to confer about the ice that's in front of us now. I envy you, Mr. Collins. I have long wanted to move below. What was it like?
Like a dream, sir.
News is in about Erebus. While she can still make headway under steam, the flagship's efficiency has been compromised.
How badly compromised? She can still pull 2 knots, maybe 3, with the boiler full up. Half power, more or less.
As well, we know that the ice ahead is increasing dramatically, both in thickness and amount. But we must be nearly in sight of King William Land. Then it isn't but another 200 miles before we can pick up the Western charts and draw in this final piece of the puzzle once and for all.
Hear, hear.
Our situation is more dire than you may understand.
Dramatic opening shot.
Please, go ahead, Francis.
That is not just ice ahead. It is the pack, and you are proposing that we cross it in September. Even with leads, it could take us weeks of picking our way through it. We may not have weeks.
But weeks at most.
You've seen the Sundogs, Graham. How many have there been now?
3.
It's already a colder year than last.
I've been to the Arctic, Francis.
On foot. And you nearly starved. Not all of your men returned. I say this with all due honor.
For God's sake, Francis.
A captain is due his candor. So what would you propose instead? Wait out winter here?
No. The exact shape of King William Land is unknown. As we discovered with Cornwallis Land, it could be King William Island, with a chance to sail around its eastern shore.
Yes, but east would add miles. We might not be out this year after all.
But only because Erebus is lame. If we consolidate all our coal on the less damaged ship, we'd have enough to go for broke and get east of King William Land, possibly around it, before winter. It's our best and probably only chance.
Yes, we should go for broke.
Abandon Erebus, is that what you're saying?
If it is a dead end, we can overwinter in complete safety out of the pack, in some sheltered harbor. We retrace our steps come spring, tired of one another, no doubt, but alive.
That is an interesting speculation. But of course, we will not be abandoning Erebus, nor Terra, should she suffer some minor misfortunes. We are almost there.
Hear me, John. It won't matter if we're 200 or 2,000 miles from safe water. If the leads close up and we are out there in it, we'll have no idea where the current will move the pack, of which we will be a part. We could be forced onto the shallows on the weather side of King William and crushed to atoms, if we're even upright by then. As a trusted friend once put it, this place wants us dead.
Who is this friend? Does he also write melodrama?
Sir John, myself, Mr. Blanky, and Mr. Reed. Only 4 of us at this table are Arctic veterans. There'll be no melodramas here. Just live men or dead men.
Certainly good to see color in your cheeks again, Francis. But we are 2 weeks from finding the Grail. And it is my belief that God and winter will find us in safe waters by the end of the year. The Sandwich Islands, or even further.
If you're wrong, we are about to commit an act of hubris. We may not survive. You know what men are like when they are desperate. We both do.
I shall continue to command from Erebus, but due to her injuries, I'm putting Terra in lead position. She may not be the better icebreaker, but she's the more powerful ship now. Bury your boy, young, and we'll be on our way west around King William Land as planned.
Bury?
Yes, a mercy. It was a long night.
Long ago in Westminster, there lived a rat catcher's daughter.
All this one could have just dropped him overboard and been done with it. Sir John's a spiritual man. I'd say an impractical one. Oh, careful there. What, is that some kind of trees inside it?
Should have run more nails through that lid.
Pull up the ropes and fill it in, Mr. Hickey.
Me?
Mr. Hornby tells me you have the most duty owing. Didn't tell me why. Grousing, probably.
Are we just going to leave it like that?
Unless you want to climb in there and fix it. Yes, we are. Up to it, Mr. Hickey. Mr. Hickey. It's not important.
Sergeant Tozer said it's not important.
Well, it would be to this boy's father, wouldn't it? Hmm? Help him, mate, up.
And Jesus said unto Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. But blessed are they that have not yet seen, but still believe. And just as David Young is at the gates, so too are we. And now is our moment to stride through them to our glory and to our destiny. I have set a course south, southwest. We will see the North American mainland within a fortnight, gentlemen. We must now begin our last and best efforts to reach her as we become the greatest Argonauts of our age. We shall earn our loved ones' cheers and embraces at our return. Onwards, men!
Coming taut, man. Let's bring it with force.
Our Lord and Father will see us through. Whatever morning brings.
Get the ice anchors up. We're part of it now.
Sir.
Fix our position with care, Mr. Reed. I want to know exactly where we are in relation to King William Land.
Yes, sir.
When the men are fed, have them begin putting the tarp up. Mr. Gregory can start drawing down the engine for winter. Your demeanor should be all cheer, gentlemen. You understand? It's going to be tight, but that's what we signed up for. An adventure for Queen and country. An adventure of a lifetime. That's what you tell the men.
He has played it a little bit more recently than a few of our other mid laners.
Yeah, I feel like Corky Mid just hasn't really hit me. Hasn't felt good. Back when it was one of the strongest lane bullies. As T1 fans are, I'm pretty sure, cheering for this one, as there was,
okay,
as it locked in.
0 and 9, you can read it on the bottom of your screen.
I'm going out on a limb here. There was a large period of time, I'm talking years, where no matter what the state of this champion was, against Ruler, it was bad. It didn't matter if Gen.G didn't look great at that point in time. Didn't matter if she wasn't in the meta. But this champion was permat against this man for a very, very long time. I love the Poppy pick up here. Insanely strong and a flex pick.
Incredibly clutch champion. We saw it used in a lot of different series, whether by Canyon or Keen, to find those incredible knockbacks, to find those clutch fight angles.